Right now, somewhere in this world, a man far less skilled than you is winning. Not because he's smarter, not because he works harder, but because when he walks into a room, he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't wait for permission. He speaks like a man who expects the world to move when he moves. And the world believes him. Meanwhile, you brilliant, careful, thoughtful are waiting for the right moment, the right words, the right feeling. And as you wait, someone else takes what could have been yours. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about comfort. This is about power. The kind Machiavelli wrote about 5 centuries ago, the kind that doesn't belong to the nicest or even the most talented, but to those who project certainty so strongly that others fall into orbit around them. Think about it. How many times have you stayed quiet in a meeting, only to hear someone else voice your exact thought and get all the credit? How many times have you held back in life, while someone bolder, though less prepared, walked away with the opportunity? That hesitation, that need for approval, that inner servant whispering, play it safe, don't offend, stay small, that voice is the chain keeping you weak. And tonight, we break it. In this video, you're not just going to hear lessons. You're going to learn how to kill hesitation, how to silence the servant within, and how to walk, speak, and move like a ruler who bends the room without begging for it. Because if you can't master this, life will pass you by and weaker men will own what was meant for you. Make no mistake, this isn't self-help. This is war, a psychological war between the man you've been trained to be and the man you were meant to become. By the end of this, you'll see why silence can be more powerful than speeches, why rejection is not defeat but intelligence, and why those who depend on being liked are always discarded. If you've ever felt overlooked, ignored, or underestimated, this is your turning point, because from this moment forward, you stop asking and you start commanding. Stay with me until the end, and I promise, you'll never walk into a room the same way again. And before we begin, subscribe to Stoic Focus right now, not just for motivation, but for the strategies to live with clarity, confidence, and unshakable power. If you're ready to stop chasing and start leading, this is the channel built for you. We live in a world where appearances often outweigh substance. Day after day, men and women with less skill, less preparation, even less discipline somehow rise above those who have spent years honing their craft. How does this happen? The answer is uncomfortable, but undeniable. People don't follow truth. They follow certainty. And this is where the illusion of confidence shapes everything. Machiavelli understood it centuries ago. Watching the games of power unfold in Florence, he saw men of great wisdom sit quietly, waiting for recognition, only to be ignored. He saw others bold but shallow step forward without hesitation, and suddenly the court bent to their will. He realized that success was rarely determined by merit alone. Instead, it belonged to those who mastered what we now call the illusion of confidence. You've seen it in your own life. The colleague who isn't the most capable, yet speaks as if his words are law. The classmate who answers before thinking, and somehow is praised for participation. The man in the room who takes up space with his presence, even when his ideas lack depth. People don't admire them because they are superior. They admire them because they act as if they already deserve admiration. That is the trick, the illusion. What makes it dangerous is that the illusion works. Humans are emotional creatures. We read cues faster than we process facts. A calm tone, steady eye contact, unhurried movements, these signals convince our subconscious that we are in the presence of authority. It doesn't matter if the person actually knows what they're talking about. It matters that they look as if they do. And the one who hesitates, no matter how intelligent, sends the opposite signal: uncertainty, weakness, lack of control. Imagine 2 surgeons entering an operating room. One is technically brilliant but nervous, shuffling papers, mumbling instructions. The other is average in skill, but confident in presence, clear voice, steady movements, decisive orders. Who do you think the team follows instinctively? Not the best, but the boldest. That is the illusion of confidence at work, and it determines outcomes more often than raw ability. This is where modern men fail. They wait for the inner feeling of certainty before they act, believing that confidence must come first. But Machiavelli would disagree. He knew that confidence is rarely something you feel, it is something you project. It is a mask you put on before stepping into the arena, and over time, the mask becomes your face. Those who wait to feel ready are controlled by hesitation. Those who project readiness, even if they don't feel it yet, control the moment. And here lies the connection to today's world. You may be smarter than your boss, more qualified than your rival, more prepared than your competitor, but if they walk in with certainty and you walk in with doubt, the world will side with them. The illusion of confidence bends the room long before facts have a chance to speak. So what does this mean for you? It means that every small act of hesitation must be treated like an enemy. Each time you soften your words with "I think" or "maybe," you chip away at your own authority. Each time you nod excessively or laugh nervously, you give away power. And each time you delay your move, waiting for the perfect moment, you hand your opportunity to someone else. Breaking free from this trap requires inversion. When you feel the urge to shrink, expand, when you want to apologize, pause. When you doubt yourself, act anyway. Because every time you defy hesitation, you train the world to see you differently. You begin to embody certainty, not as a fleeting feeling, but as an identity. And once that identity takes root, you stop being controlled by fear, by doubt, by hesitation, and instead, you begin controlling how the world reacts to you. But even as you begin to recognize the illusion of confidence, there is a deeper obstacle hidden inside you, one far more dangerous than hesitation itself. It is that quiet voice whispering, "Stay small. Don't make a scene. Don't risk being disliked." You know the one I'm talking about. It's the voice that apologizes before you've even spoken, the one that edits your words down until they carry no weight. Machiavelli would have called this voice the mark of a servant, and unless you confront it, you will never be free. That is why the next transformation requires what can only be described as killing the inner servant. Where does this servant come from? It is not born with you. It is trained into you. From childhood, you are rewarded for pleasing others, punished for disobedience, praised for compliance. You are told to ask permission, to wait your turn, to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. Slowly, piece by piece, your natural boldness is replaced with obedience. And by the time you reach adulthood, you have been so well conditioned that you confuse submission with politeness and hesitation with humility. The servant is alive inside you, shaping your every move. Think about it. How many times have you bitten your tongue? Not because you didn't know the answer, but because you didn't want to seem arrogant. How many times have you softened your tone? Not because your words were wrong, but because you feared they might sound too direct. That flinch, that need to shrink yourself, is the servant at work. And as long as it remains alive, you will carry chains no matter how far you rise. History is filled with men who killed the servant and, in doing so, rewrote their destiny. Consider Alexander the Great. At just 18, he led a cavalry charge at the Battle of Chaeronea. Older generals hesitated, calculating the risks. Alexander did not. He acted boldly, and in that moment, the Macedonian army saw not a boy, but a leader. Had he listened to the inner servant telling him to stay quiet, he would have remained in the shadows. Instead, he silenced it, and the world followed. The Stoics spoke of the same principle in different language. Epictetus, once a literal slave, taught that true freedom comes not from external conditions, but from mastery over the self. A man enslaved to his inner servant, no matter his wealth or status, is not free. He is reactive, timid, ruled by the fear of judgment. But a man who refuses to bow to that voice becomes untouchable. He lives by reason, not by approval. He acts from clarity, not from conditioning. In the modern world, killing the inner servant doesn't mean becoming reckless or cruel. It means refusing to let that whisper of self-doubt dictate your actions. It means catching yourself when you say, "I'm sorry, but," and replacing it with a steady statement of fact. It means walking into a room without glancing around for approval, moving as if you already belong there. Each of these small acts chips away at the servant until he no longer controls you. I remember watching a colleague years ago, brilliant, articulate, yet paralyzed in moments that mattered most. In team meetings, he would lower his voice, soften his words, constantly seeking the nod of approval from managers. He became reliable, yes, but invisible. Another colleague, far less capable, spoke with certainty, asked for nothing, and carried himself like a man whose opinions mattered by default. Guess who climbed the ladder faster? It wasn't the servant, it was the man who had long since buried his inner hesitation. And here's the paradox: when you kill the servant inside, you don't become less human, you become more. You begin to move not as someone conditioned to obey, but as someone designed to lead. Confidence ceases to be an act of performance and becomes a reflection of who you are. People sense it. They adjust to you. They stop treating you as optional and begin treating you as inevitable. So ask yourself honestly, how much of your life has been wasted in service to that inner voice? How many chances have you lost because you waited for permission? How many rooms have you entered like a guest instead of an owner? Every time you bowed to the servant, you gave away a piece of yourself. And every time you defied it, even in the smallest ways, you felt the ruler inside you stir. This is why Machiavelli's dark psychology lessons are still alive today. He knew that power is not handed to the obedient, it is seized by those who act without waiting. The servant inside you whispers, "Don't stand out, don't take risks, don't offend," and as long as you listen, you remain controlled. But when you silence that voice, when you stare instead of apologizing, when you claim space instead of shrinking, you step into a different reality. You are no longer shaped by others, you begin to shape them. Killing the inner servant is not a one-time act. It is a daily practice. Every hesitation is a test. Every apology, every flinch, every glance for approval is an opportunity to resist. And over time, the servant weakens, the ruler awakens, and you discover what Machiavelli understood all along: freedom does not come from being liked. It comes from refusing to bow. Once the servant within begins to die, a new force starts to emerge. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It is not desperate to be recognized. In fact, it is the opposite. True authority does not announce itself with noise. It arrives quietly, in the way you carry your body, the way you hold your gaze, the way you sit in stillness while others scramble to prove themselves. Machiavelli observed this in the courts of power. Sometimes the man who said the least was the one everyone feared the most. Why? Because silence leaves room for imagination, and imagination often paints someone more dangerous than reality ever could. Think about a room filled with chatter, everyone talking over one another, eager to be heard, rushing to gain approval. Then one man enters. He does not rush. He does not compete for attention. He does not need to. He simply observes, calm and deliberate, and within minutes the atmosphere shifts. People sense it even if they cannot name it. That weight, that shift, comes from silence, stillness, and presence. Most of us have been trained to believe that power belongs to the loudest, but in truth, constant talking reveals insecurity. The one who fills the air with words is also the one exposing his hunger for validation. The one who holds back, who waits, who lets others reveal themselves, that is the man who owns the room. When he finally does speak, every word is amplified by the silence that came before it. History gives us countless examples. Consider Julius Caesar. In the Senate, there were men more eloquent than him, orators who could sway crowds with language alone. But Caesar mastered presence. He could walk into a gathering without a word, and people would lean in. His stillness carried more weight than their speeches. He did not need to fight for attention. He bent the attention toward him simply by existing with authority. In modern life, the same principle applies. A CEO I once observed never raised his voice in meetings. He almost never interrupted. While others argued, he sat motionless, listening, and when the room finally quieted, He would deliver a single sentence, calm and final. The entire board shifted around his words. He didn't dominate with volume. He dominated with gravity. That is the essence of presence, an invisible power that makes people adjust themselves without you ever demanding it. You can test this in your own life. The next time you enter a room, resist the urge to immediately prove yourself. Instead, walk in as if you have already been chosen. Speak less. Move slower. When others rush to fill the silence, let them. Watch how quickly they reveal their insecurities, their need for approval, their weaknesses. By doing nothing more than standing steady, you create contrast. You stop chasing energy and begin creating gravity. Silence is a weapon because it unsettles people. We live in a world of noise, constant updates, constant opinions, constant interruptions. When you refuse to play that game, when you sit calmly and wait, others begin to wonder what you are thinking, what you are planning, whether you know something they don't. That uncertainty grants you power without lifting a finger. Machiavelli knew this. He understood that a silent man can be far more threatening than a loud one, because unpredictability is a form of control. Stillness works the same way. Predators in the wild do not thrash around to prove they are dangerous. They wait, they conserve energy, they watch. The stillness itself becomes terrifying because everyone senses what could happen when it breaks. Humans respond the same way. When you slow your movements, when you refuse to fidget, when you speak only after deliberate pauses, people feel the weight of your control. You are no longer at the mercy of your nerves, you are broadcasting dominance without words. And then there is presence, the culmination of silence and stillness combined. Presence is not about being noticed. It is about shifting the room simply by existing in it. Presence is what makes people turn their heads when you walk in, even before you speak. It is not charisma in the traditional sense, but a deeper form of gravity. Presence says, I don't need you to acknowledge me. I already own the space I stand in. When you cultivate silence, stillness, and presence, you begin to live the very lessons that Machiavelli left behind. You stop seeking permission to be powerful. You stop chasing recognition. Instead, you let the world lean toward you. And when you finally choose to act, the impact is multiplied tenfold because your restraint has built anticipation. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself with words, remember this. The loudest man in the room is rarely the most powerful. The one who sits quietly, waiting, observing, holding the silence until it becomes unbearable. That is the man others cannot ignore. Machiavelli's dark psychology shows us that power often belongs not to the one who speaks the most, but to the one who can control when he does not speak at all. Silence, stillness, and presence build the foundation of authority, but eventually, you must speak. And here is where many fall apart. They master posture. They enter with presence. But the moment words leave their mouths, the illusion crumbles. Their tone rises as if they are asking a question instead of delivering a fact. They lace every thought with fillers, maybe. I think. I'm not sure. And in that instant, whatever power they carry disappears. Because words are not just sounds. Words are weapons. And the way you use them decides whether people see you as a ruler or as a servant. Machiavelli understood that it wasn't only what you said that mattered, it was how you said it. This is what I call the Machiavellian voice, a style of speech that carries finality, not negotiation. It is calm, deliberate, grounded. It does not ask for agreement. It assumes it. When you speak in this way, people stop analyzing the content of your words and begin submitting to the weight of your certainty. Think about the last time you heard someone speak with unshakable conviction. Maybe it was a general addressing his troops. Maybe a leader rallying a crowd. Maybe a teacher who spoke so clearly that you never questioned his authority. The words themselves may not have been brilliant, but the delivery made them feel undeniable. That is the Machiavellian voice at work. It sounds like the end of the discussion, not the beginning of one. You can see the opposite everywhere. Nervous laughter at the end of a sentence, rising intonation, as if asking for permission to continue. Long explanations meant to soften opinions. Filled with disclaimers I could be wrong, but, or does that make sense? These are escape hatches, ways of signaling to others that you are not confident in your own words. And the moment people sense that, they calibrate downward. They place you beneath them in the hierarchy. A Machiavellian voice does the opposite. It strips away all softness. It does not decorate itself with filler. It doesn't explain unnecessarily. It says what it means and then stops, leaving silence to do the rest. And in that silence, others adjust themselves to your certainty. Imagine a courtroom. A young lawyer, nervous, stumbles over his arguments, padding them with qualifiers and apologies. The jury hears uncertainty. Then the opposing lawyer rises. He doesn't speak quickly. He doesn't argue loudly. He simply delivers his points as if they are already accepted facts. The difference is dramatic. One man sounds like he is asking, the other sounds like he is deciding, and the jury follows the decider. That is the Machiavellian voice, calm, final, commanding. Even the Stoics knew the importance of tone. Marcus Aurelius wrote not in flowery speeches, but in short, clipped truths. His meditations read like decrees to himself, steady, minimal, without waste. Power in speech comes not from volume, but from clarity. Machiavelli and the Stoics would agree on this: much speak less, mean more. In practical terms, how do you develop this voice? First, lower your pitch. High, fast, nervous tones betray anxiety. A slower, deeper cadence projects control. Second, eliminate fillers, no like, you know. Each filler word drains authority. Third, cut explanations unless they serve your outcome. If you must disagree, say, that's incorrect. Not, I see your point, but I think maybe you're mistaken. Precision is power. And above all, do not defend. Weak men defend themselves endlessly, trying to justify every move. Strong men redirect. Someone challenges you. Don't argue. Simply say, I disagree, and move on. This refusal to debate signals something terrifying, that your reality is not up for negotiation. It tells the room that your world stands firm regardless of their approval. I once watched a senior executive handle a direct challenge in a meeting. A junior manager accused him of overlooking critical details. The room went silent, expecting a back and forth. Instead, the executive said simply, that's incorrect, and turned back to his agenda. No defense, no wasted words. The challenger looked unsettled, and within minutes, the entire room recalibrated to the executive's authority. That is the Machiavellian voice in action, final, not fragile. When you begin to speak this way, something changes in how people respond. They stop trying to test you. They start waiting for you. Even if they disagree internally, they hesitate to voice it because your delivery leaves no room for argument. This is not arrogance, it is control. And control, as Machiavelli warned, belongs not to the best arguments, but to the boldest certainty. So remember, this confidence is not volume, it is gravity. Your words should not sound like suggestions tossed into the air. They should land like decisions, heavy and undeniable. The more you speak this way, the less you will need to say at all. For rulers do not convince, they decree. And when you master the Machiavellian voice, you stop being one of many voices in the crowd, you become the voice the crowd waits to hear. But speech alone is never enough. Many men learn to stand tall, to project confidence, even to speak with authority. But all of it crumbles the moment someone presses the right button. A subtle insult, and they explode in anger. A flattering compliment, and they melt into weakness. A cold silence from others, and they begin to doubt themselves. This is the point where most people fail, not in posture, not in voice, but in control of the inner battlefield. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He knew that if someone can trigger your emotions at will, you are not powerful, you are predictable, and predictability is the death of influence. To rise above this, you must become what I call the emotional fortress. A fortress is not lifeless stone, it is a living defense system. It feels the tremors of attack but does not fall with the first blow. In the same way, an emotional fortress does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel everything but act only when it serves your purpose. Imagine being insulted in front of a crowd. The servant inside wants to defend, to explain, to fight back impulsively, but the fortress does not. The fortress observes. It absorbs the insult like stone absorbs wind. And in that stillness, you gain something greater than satisfaction, you gain control. Think about leaders throughout history. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal within his own court, yet his writings and meditations reveal calm reflection, not rage. Abraham Lincoln endured constant public criticism, but he often responded with silence or humor, refusing to give enemies the satisfaction of seeing him rattled. Even Machiavelli himself, though banished and disgraced at times, maintained composure and wrote with clarity, not despair. Each of these men understood the same truth: once your emotions belong to others, you no longer belong to yourself. You can see the difference in everyday life. A manager criticizes two employees. The first becomes defensive, over-explains, and in the process confirms his weakness. The second nods calmly, says little, and returns to work without visible reaction. Later, which one commands more respect? Not the one who fought back emotionally, but the one who seemed untouchable. That man, without words, demonstrated the strength of an emotional fortress. The practical application of this lesson is clear. When someone insults you, don't rush to react. Ask yourself, what are they trying to get from me? What weakness are they hoping to expose? Treat every test as data, not as injury. When someone praises you, don't soften or bend for approval. Ask instead, why now? What do they want in return? Use flattery as information, not as food for your ego. And when someone ignores you, do not panic. Double down on your calm, withdraw even more. Nothing unsettles people faster than the man who does not chase their attention. This is how you begin to rewire your identity. Most men are programmable. Push the right emotional button, and you get the reaction you want. Tell them they're not good enough. They overcompensate. Tell them they're amazing. They become eager to please. Withdraw affection. They beg to reconnect. That is not power. That is programming. And Machiavelli would tell you bluntly, the programmed man is disposable. He can be used, discarded, and replaced. The fortress, however, cannot. But make no mistake, building the emotional fortress is difficult because it requires killing your hunger for validation. That is the root virus, the need to be seen, to be understood, to be praised. Once you burn it out, you become unreachable. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop reacting to rejection. You stop measuring your worth through the eyes of others. And the irony is that the moment you stop chasing approval, people start respecting you more. There is a story of a chess master who was once mocked during a public match. His opponent tried to rattle him with insults, hoping to break his focus. The master didn't respond. He didn't even acknowledge the words. He moved his pieces calmly, and when he finally delivered checkmate, the insult no longer mattered. The victory itself was the response. That is what it means to be an emotional fortress. Your power is not in defending your ego, it is in letting results speak in silence. Machiavelli would argue that this unshakable composure is the highest form of control. Because once people realize they cannot move you, no insult, no praise, no rejection will trigger you. They stop trying, and that is when you become truly dangerous. Not because you are violent, not because you are loud, but because you are untouchable. So when life tests you, remember the world does not care how you feel. It responds only to what you project. Project weakness, and you will be controlled. Project desperation, and you will be used. But project the calm weight of a fortress, and suddenly people must adjust to you. They begin to respect your silence, fear your unpredictability, and wonder what you will do next. The illusion of confidence may open the door, the Machiavellian voice may control the conversation, but the emotional fortress ensures no one can ever take your power away. It is the invisible armor that keeps you from being predictable, and in the end, It is what separates the rulers from the ruled. Every fortress will eventually be tested, and one of the sharpest blades the world uses against you is rejection. It cuts deep because it strikes at the heart of that old servant inside the one that still longs to be chosen, approved, validated. Most men crumble when they hear the word no. They treat rejection as proof that they are unworthy, as a wound that must be explained or avenged. But Machiavelli, cold and calculating, would see rejection differently. He would not see it as an injury, but as intelligence. In his hands, rejection becomes not a scar, but a sword. This is what it means to wield rejection as a weapon. Think carefully about what rejection really is. It is not a verdict on your value. It is a signal. When someone turns you down, they are revealing where they believe their advantage lies. They are saying, "I think I can survive without you." To the weak, this feels like humiliation. To the strong, it is priceless information. Now you know how they see you. Now you know where they underestimate you. And knowledge like this can be turned into strategy. Machiavelli once wrote that men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they will take revenge for slight injuries, but not for severe ones. Rejection works in the same way. A small rejection, if you cling to it emotionally, festers into bitterness. But if you treat it with detachment, if you reframe it as clarity, you strip it of its power. You can then decide, do I vanish and make them feel the void? Do I return stronger so their earlier dismissal becomes their shame? Or do I simply remove them from my field altogether, turning my silence into a punishment louder than words? Consider the entrepreneur who pitches an idea to investors. They reject him, laughing behind closed doors. The servant within would sulk, replay the sting endlessly, maybe even give up. But the ruler within sees it differently. He studies why they said no, sharpens his pitch, improves his product, and builds without them. Years later, when his company dominates the market, those same investors scramble to be part of it. His revenge is not spite, it is presence. That is rejection used as a weapon. In everyday life, you can do the same. When a relationship ends and someone rejects you, don't beg, don't plead, don't announce your pain to the world. Withdraw. Let silence work. In time, the absence begins to weigh on them. They remember what they dismissed. They feel the cost of losing what they took for granted. Your quiet distance becomes more haunting than any argument ever could. That is strategy. The key is to never let rejection appear as a wound. The moment you look hurt, the other side wins. The Machiavellian response is different. I was not rejected. I was redirected. You weren't denied something you needed. You were given clarity about what no longer deserves you. You didn't lose status, you gained intelligence. And with intelligence, you can plan your next move with precision. There is also a subtler form of power in rejection, reframing the story. Instead of saying, "They didn't want me," you tell yourself, "I allowed them to reveal their blindness." This mindset keeps you from begging to be understood, because once you demand to be understood, you are already controlled. Better to walk away in silence and let time expose their mistake. Better to evolve until their earlier dismissal looks like the most foolish decision they ever made. This is why the Machiavellian mind never seeks revenge in the emotional sense. Revenge is reactive. It gives power to the one who struck first, but to use rejection as a weapon is to play the long game. You don't need to retaliate loudly. You let your growth, your presence, your dominance do the talking. And when you finally reappear, it is not with bitterness, it is with success so undeniable that they cannot look at you without remembering the choice they made. I once knew a man in sales who lost a major client. They chose a competitor, and he felt crushed. But instead of chasing them back or complaining, he redirected his energy. He studied why he lost, refined his offer, and doubled down on other prospects. A year later, he landed contracts twice the size, and when the original client came back, desperate to switch, he no longer needed them. He had turned rejection into leverage. That is power not in the loss, but in what he built after. So when the world rejects you, remember this: you are not being diminished, you are being refined. The weak man takes rejection personally. The strong man weaponizes it. He knows it is not proof of unworthiness, but proof of clarity. He can now see who underestimated him, who cannot recognize his value, who must eventually be left behind. And with that knowledge, he sharpens his edge, strengthens his presence, and becomes the one they cannot ignore. In the end, rejection is never defeat. It is redirection. It is the world handing you the gift of clarity, saying, not here, not with them, not yet. What you do with that clarity determines everything. You can weep over the door that closed, or you can build a castle so large that the ones who said no are left standing outside its gates, wondering how they ever thought they could survive without you. Rejection may cut, but once you learn to turn it into fuel, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop being swayed by every yes and every no. You stop letting the moods of others dictate your worth. You stop being carried around by the tides of approval and disapproval. At first, this feels like detachment, but soon you realize it is something much greater. It is the state that Machiavelli admired most in those who truly ruled the ability to remain unshaken in a storm. This is what it means to be becoming untouchable. To be untouchable does not mean to be cold or robotic. It means no one can pull your strings. Praise does not make you soft. Criticism does not make you crumble. Silence does not make you spiral. You still feel, but you do not flinch. You still hear, but you do not bend. Imagine being in a heated room where insults fly, where praise is handed out like candy, where attention shifts from one person to the next. Most men are tossed around like leaves in the wind, but one man sits there steady, unaffected, measured. He is not numb, he is in control. That man becomes the gravitational center of the room, simply because nothing seems to move him. Think of a fortress again. Walls are not built to deny the existence of storms. They are built to withstand them. In the same way, your mind must become a fortress. You allow winds of rejection, waves of flattery, the whispers of doubt to pass by, but they do not shake your foundation. Machiavelli warned that the moment your enemies discover what moves you, they own you. If anger moves you, they will insult you. If flattery moves you, they will praise you. If loneliness moves you, they will withdraw. But if nothing predictable moves you, you become dangerous, because the world cannot control what it cannot read. History remembers those who mastered this state. Marcus Aurelius wrote of enduring both criticism and praise with the same calm, never allowing either to corrupt his judgment. Winston Churchill, mocked and dismissed in his early years, became a wall of resolve when the fate of nations hung in the balance. Even Machiavelli himself, though cast out and betrayed, wrote with clarity, transforming his exile into timeless strategy. Their lesson is clear. The man who cannot be shaken eventually becomes the man who cannot be ignored. In modern life, becoming untouchable might look like this. You present an idea in a meeting. Some people praise it, others dismiss it. Instead of glowing at the praise or shrinking at the dismissal, you stay the same. You simply continue forward, adjusting your plan without changing your posture. Later, people realize that your steadiness is not arrogance, it is strength. It tells them that you are not here to beg for their approval. You are here to shape outcomes. And this steadiness has a profound side effect. When people recognize that they cannot provoke you, they stop trying. At first, they will praise you, ignore you, insult you, tempt you, but when every attempt falls flat, they grow uneasy. They realize you are not like the others. They realize you belong to no one. And slowly, almost unconsciously, they start to respect you, because untouchable men are rare, and what is rare is always valuable. But let's be clear, becoming untouchable is not about shutting off emotions. It is about choosing which ones to act on. Anger becomes fuel for discipline. Doubt becomes a reason to prepare harder. Insults become data. Praise becomes background noise. You feel it all, but you act only when it serves your strategy. That is not numbness, it is mastery. There is a story of a boxer who was booed by the crowd as he entered the ring. The servant inside him could have flinched, grown nervous, tried to win them over, Instead, he walked slowly, eyes calm, posture steady, as if the noise did not exist. By the end of the fight, the same crowd that booed him stood in awe. He did not win their approval by chasing it. He won it by being untouchable. This is the final transformation Machiavelli hints at in all his writings. Power is not posture alone. It is not words alone. It is not even presence alone. It is identity. You no longer ask to be chosen. You no longer wait for validation. You no longer crumble when doors close or faces turn away. You become a man who does not bend with the wind, but bends the wind itself. You are no longer controlled by anyone because you belong to no one. And in that state, rejection no longer feels like a wound. It feels like clarity. Praise no longer feels like food. It feels like distraction. Criticism no longer feels like danger. It feels like noise. The chains of dependence fall away, and you discover something most men never touch in their lifetime, the freedom of being unreachable. That is becoming untouchable not by hiding from the world, but by mastering yourself so fully that nothing in the world can own you again. From the very beginning, this journey has not been about tips or shallow tricks. It has been about transformation. You saw how the illusion of confidence can lift a weaker man above a stronger one, how hesitation becomes fatal, and how silence, stillness, and presence create gravity where noise cannot. You learned that the Machiavellian voice, calm, final, deliberate, shapes perception more than perfect arguments ever will. And you discovered that the emotional fortress, the ability to feel but not flinch, is what separates rulers from servants. Even rejection, which most see as a wound, can be reframed as intelligence, sharpened into a blade, and wielded as a weapon. And when all of this comes together, you step into a state far beyond ordinary confidence. You begin becoming untouchable. To be untouchable is not to be heartless. It is to be free. Free from the need to be chosen. Free from the trap of constant approval. Free from the invisible strings that make most men dance to the tune of others' emotions. When you no longer react on command when insults, praise, rejection, or silence fail to move you, you reach the level Machiavelli wrote about in Whispers, the level of the ruler. Not necessarily a king on a throne, but a man who carries within him the same quiet certainty. A man who bends the room without demanding it. A man who does not seek to be liked, because he already knows who he is. This is why the title Stop Being Controlled: Machiavelli's Dark Psychology Lessons for Modern Life matters so much. It isn't just a phrase, it's a command. Stop handing your power away in small doses. Stop apologizing before you speak. Stop waiting for permission to take what you already deserve. Every time you hesitate, every time you shrink, every time you bow to the servant inside, you are being controlled. But the moment you step forward with certainty, silence the inner servant, master your voice, fortify your emotions, and transform rejection into fuel, you stop being controlled and you start controlling the game. Remember, the world does not reward the most deserving, it rewards the most certain. People do not follow truth, they follow conviction. They do not bend for kindness, they bend for clarity, presence, and power. That is why you must never waste your life waiting to feel ready. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you embody. It is forged in action, in silence, in the refusal to be shaken. Think of how different your life could be if, from this day forward, you walked into every room as if you already belonged there. If your words landed like decisions instead of questions. If your emotions were no longer open for manipulation. If rejection no longer cut you, but sharpened you. This is not fantasy, it is practice. Each moment of hesitation is an opportunity to expand. Each flinch is a chance to resist. Each rejection is a map showing you where to grow stronger. Step by step, act by act, you rewrite who you are. And here is the final truth. Legends are not remembered because they begged for approval. They are remembered because they carried themselves as inevitable. They moved through life with a presence that haunted the memory of others long after they were gone. They were not controlled. They became the standard. Now it is your turn. Stop asking, Stop shrinking. Stop letting others write your story. From this moment forward, build the illusion of confidence until it becomes reality. Kill the servant. Speak with the Machiavellian voice. Fortify yourself as an emotional fortress. Turn rejection into your sharpest weapon. And in time, you will discover that untouchable identity rising from within you, the one that cannot be ignored, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be broken. If you are ready to stop being controlled and start living with that kind of clarity, presence, and power, then this is not the end. It is the beginning. Subscribe to Stoic Focus now, not for comfort, but for strategies to live untouchable, to think with Machiavellian precision, and to carry yourself with the kind of authority the world cannot resist. Because in the end, the weak ask to be remembered. The strong leave no choice.